Hello everybody, I think we're off. Welcome to a swelteringly hot day in the UK. I think it's 34 degrees here. I have no idea what that is in, let's find out, Celsius to Fahrenheit. So I can tell you how hot it is. And it's 93.2 apparently, Google tells me. That's hot for the UK. We're just not set up for this kind of thing. We don't have AC or anything like that. However, I do have foot-thick walls in my studio because this is an old farmhouse. And I'm at the back of the house that doesn't get too much sun. And speaking of sun, today we have got a sunflower to paint. Now, my wife Michelle has grown this in our kind of vegetable patch thing that we've got going. And it was actually at its best a couple of days before I took it and took the shot. But I kind of like the shape it's ended up. It looks like it's in a wind tunnel or something. It's got character at least, right? So depending on how today's session goes, we might end up with some more sunflowers, because I have a feeling I'm going to enjoy painting this, and I hope you will as well. The kind of guiding principle for today's stream is the one I always talk about when we're doing flowers, is ignore the petals, look for the big shapes, okay? Ignore the petals, look for the big shapes. Big shapes, no details. We're going to be chanting as we go along. Big shapes, no details. Seriously, it will help you. I'm going to do a wipeout today. So I'm going to paint the background, completely cover the panel, and then I'm going to wipe out the light parts of the flower. Hopefully be able to get enough paint off the panel so that I can get the high chroma yellows in the light. Here's the easel. I've got an 8x10 ampersand gesso board panel, which regular visitors will not be terribly surprised by, I shouldn't think. There's what? Michelle says there's a leaderboard today. I'll try and catch up with that in a minute. I think Google may have done a thing on the streams that I didn't ask it to do. I don't even have my paints out yet, but that's a good opportunity for me to talk about how I would decide what I put out. So based on the reference photo that we're working from, obviously we're going to need white because we always need white. Now this is Rublev lead white. I think this is number 2. The only difference between number 1 and number 2 is that number 2 has safflower oil, I think, and number 1 is linseed oil. We're going to need black. Look at that background. We're going to need some black, okay? Yes, you could, if you were really bloody minded, you could manage to mix some kind of a black with transparent red oxide and phthalo green. Why make life hard? There's the black. What else are we going to need? Definitely a yellow. Now I'm putting out cad yellow. Should be fairly obvious. We're going to need this. Look at those petals on the right hand side. I'll put a good bit of that out, more than I normally would. I think that's probably going to be about the right colour. I don't think I'm going to have to go more green than that. If I wanted to send it, that's like an orange yellow. Orangey yellow. If I wanted to send it more green, I would add an arrowlide yellow or possibly cad yellow lemon. This is Michael Harding cad yellow. It's a really nice kind of middle, warmish but a middle yellow. If you use Winsor & Newton, their cadmium yellow is basically orange. I don't know what they're thinking about. I quite like Winsor & Newton paint. There's nothing wrong with it. But the yellow, really? What you want is cad yellow pale in Winsor & Newton. Quinacridone rose. I know there's no red in the picture. It'll be obvious why I'm putting that out shortly. Similarly, oh, this is cobalt blue. That doesn't make any difference. I'll put cobalt blue out. You could use ultramarine or cobalt, doesn't matter. What do we want now? We want chroma in the shadows. We want high chroma as in intense color at low value. So we have a pair of colors here that we can get that with. Green gold. transparent red oxide. Again, if you're new to the channel, this will become obvious to you as I paint why I'm putting these two out and why they're a pair on the palette. Very, very useful, the two of those together. Especially, actually, if you're painting yellows in shadow. You'll see why. But we want to be dropping the chroma somewhere, like on the cloth, definitely at the front and maybe in the background, so raw umber. I think of raw umber and ivory black as the chroma droppers. When I need to drop the chroma for any reason, those are the two I go to. All right, paint's out. What's the first thing we want to do? We want to rough out, like, get an idea of where everything is going to go first. The way I generally approach this is to do just a quick kind of a straight line blocking. Mix up a little bit of, I'm getting ahead of myself actually. Usually I oil out the panel first. A little bit of raw umber and white. Oiling out the panel. Let's do that bit first. Follow the process. This is linseed oil with a very small amount of solvent in it. I use terps. This here is a makeup sponge. Has a little bit of paint on it. Hopefully it won't come out too much on the panel. Oh, it has done a little bit. Never mind, we'll work with it. What have I got on there? Yellow and black, it looks like. Well, there's quite a bit of yellow and black in this picture, so I'm sure we'll be fine. How are you all doing, everybody? Anyway, how has your week been? I've had a very busy but excellent week here. Kathy, good to see you back. Martin, hello. Martin Rice, haven't seen you for a while. Or have you just been quiet, or have I missed your comments? It's nice to see you anyway. Hello, Olaf, good to see you. Hello, Stephanie, good to see you. Oh, I need to get back to you, don't I? I'm sorry, I've just got so much going on at the moment. I'm dropping quite a few of the balls that I'm trying to keep in the air at the same time. Hello, Linda, good to see you. Hi, Bobby. So PJ asked me just before we went live, are the colours correct in the materials list? I promise you they are. Well, you know, assuming that I don't make a complete mess of the painting, hopefully we'll be all right. Hello, Tasha, good to see you. Hello, Dave. That's a very fetching little icon you've got, little avatar. Is that Munsell colour by any chance? Hi, Colette. Hi, Thomas. Marilyn's had a great week. Brilliant. Oh, Diana's been job hunting. I will keep my fingers crossed for you, Diana. I hope something comes up. If it hasn't already. Hello, David. For some reason, your comments don't appear, you say, but I can see yours, so I don't know why that should be. Someone was telling me they put comments on my videos the other day and they weren't showing. I'm not sure why that would be. Who knows? Maybe some random AI censoring. I don't know what's going on there. Hello, Lisa. Thank you very much for putting your name in, because I would totally have forgotten and I was about to ask what it was. Oh, hello, Linda. I just saw your question that you put, but I haven't had a time to answer it yet because I literally saw it as I was setting up today. But I will get back to you. And that's a very nice thing to say, thank you. So we want to be blocking out. Let's put some paint up. Where is the thing going to go? Now, in a sense, it's simple, a simple composition, but in a sense, it's also kind of complex at the same time. I'm gonna imagine this as like just one big circle to start off with. So I want to know, like, Where's the highest point of it? And it's going to be about here. I'm going to rough this out like really generally. Where's the lowest point? About there, probably. Furthest right. This is all this area is in shadow over here. Furthest left, sorry. Furthest other right. Out there. It's shifted a little bit to the left because I just don't like having things like bang in the middle. Where does the bottom of the vase come? About there, I would say, probably bottom of the vase. Furthest left point of the vase. Out over there somewhere. Furthest right point over here. Yeah, the vase is a little bit kind of to the side. That's the vase. Cast shadow, which the vase casts on the cloth. I will put in the division between the cloth and the background. I'm going to I'll probably ignore it, but we'll put it in anyway. See, we're getting there already. The central disc, I kind of want to have the central disc in. I think that would be like a useful thing to have. It's actually, the central disc is a very, very large part of the flower. Something like this. Look about right, something like that. Actually, what I've just realised, I'm wondering why I'm doing this, because I did plan to start this with a wipeout, didn't I? Which would obliterate all that drawing. Would it or won't it? I probably don't need to do all of this, right? I probably didn't need to do all that, but it's probably handy to know this here. Let me think. Yeah, actually, yeah. We are going to do a wipeout. For a moment there, I thought, let's not do one, but I haven't done one for a long time, and it's a really, really useful technique. So it would be good to demonstrate it today, I think. Yeah, Marsha, you've had a really good week painting. If that painting that you sent to me over email is what you did this week, that was a seriously nice piece of work. You should put it in the community. Okay. Let's mix up some colour and put something down. I'm going to start off with the cloth right at the front, okay? Now the cloth is mostly, it's not as light as you think. I know it's actually white, but in terms of my trusty value scale here, even the front doesn't really get much higher than about a value 7. So I'm going to go in about a value 7. So let's start off with a load of white. We'll mix it up here. I'm going to put some black in it. Start to bring it down to where we want it to be in terms of value. So I've got it up, look, I've got it up on Chroma Magic here, so you can see, like, hopefully. I'm saying value 6 there, value 7 there. But notice as I click around, I don't know if you can see this, but it's all blues and purples. Very low chroma, but it's all blues and purples, and that should hopefully explain to you why I've got quinacridone rose and cobalt blue on the palette. Honestly, I shouldn't have been lazy. I should totally have put ultramarine out because it's a better color, but we only need like a tiny little bit of blue. That's about a 7. So that's just black and white. Now black and white will make a pretty bluish white. I'm going to put in a small amount, just a tiny touch of quinacridone rose. I'm going to maybe push it a little bit as we go through the painting. I might add a little bit more. I want it to go slightly red blue, but really, really subtle, like really low chroma, right? Have I got enough paint? Let's find out. Rosemary's Ivory Flat This is a size 10. That's got to be about 3/4 of an inch across, something like that. I'm going to get a little bit of oil on it. Grab some of this and just basically just start putting it on. I know this is cloth here, but I'm not going to put it on there because that's cast shadow. And I like to think of cast shadows as, actually that's shadow as well there. I like to think of shadow as a separate shape and to deal with it differently. So all I want to put on here is the light. And it looks dark. I know it looks dark, but it looks dark because everything else on the panel is light. Even the camera would be having trouble with it. We're going to have an area like in between the shadow and the light. Like here, where the value is still pretty low, but we've got a little bit of chroma. So I'm going to grab some green gold. This is where the green gold and the transparent red oxide comes into it. Don't want the chroma to go too out of control. So now the chroma dropper comes in, the raw umber. I'm going to mix a little bit of my cloth color with that. Try and get the chroma something like right. And this is all like cast shadow here. Right, this is all shadow as well here. That's got a little bit more chroma in it, to be fair, than is actually there in the photo, but you know, what's a little chroma between friends? Soften that edge. Soften this edge. See, I like to start the paintings off really, really loosely, you know, but I'm trying to make sure that what I put down is at least in the right place. And I also like to handle the edges straight away. As soon as I'm in there painting, I want to be thinking about trying to get the edges right, you know. We've got a very dark background. It's got a little bit of green over here, but not much. It's mostly black. So I was thinking about like how to approach this painting before I came on today live. And yeah, Kate's saying, I thought it was supposed to be a wipeout. Kate, you have a purple crown and a number 1 next to your name. What does that mean? Does that mean you've written more comments than anybody else today? Linda, you're very welcome. I will get back to your promise. It probably won't be today because basically it's extremely hot here. It's getting on. It's like 5:20 in the evening for me. I've had a busy day as it is and I'm pretty tired. But I will get back to you. I've got a busy weekend coming up as well, but I'll try and get back to you tomorrow. Mostly black, right? This is mostly black. Where do we want the black? So, you know what? Let's get more black. And we'll just... This is going to be... The reason I'm going to do it this way, I wouldn't necessarily do it this way if I was just making a painting for myself. Although I think, or I hope that it will work. Get a little bit of raw umber and green gold in. I want to overemphasize the way of thinking about this as just like as really simplified shapes, you know. So here's our vase. I'm just going to do it black for now. Let's put this black in. Need more black. But isn't it noticeable that now we've got that dark value in and the whole of the panel is covered? It's kind of more noticeable how this looks lighter now, isn't it? Darker over here. We want probably a little bit of, there's just like a hint of green over here so we can begin to show where the leaf goes, which is a little bit darker. Wipe it back a little bit. And I'm going to throw some probably green gold again with a little bit of TRO in it. Maybe even lighter than that. I'm bringing a little bit of white in as well, just so we can see that. So the space is already starting to appear. That's what I like to do, is to like in a really general way, you know, obviously. I like to kind of start by creating the space that everything is going to be sitting in. This is kind of green, this vase. The vase is actually clear, so the green that you see in it, I mean the actual vase is clear, so the green that you see in it is colour that's being refracted through from the background. Probably want to go darker here. So I want this to be feeling like a shadow, you know. Because it's really easy to set these things up at the beginning of a painting, but it's a pain to do it later if you've done a load of careful painting. So I want to get this to a point as quickly as possible where I can kind of imagine, you know, if I stand back and I squint, I can feel the light in there. I can feel the depth and the space, and I can feel the flower. And that has nothing to do with how many petals I painted. Big shapes, no details. Just to be a bit darker, that when we get closer to a bit of blue, a little bit of red, mostly black. When we get closer to the shadow, it wants to be darker here, I think. So I'm squinting and I'm looking at, you know, I'm looking at the reference photo, like I've got the reference photo really, really small. And I'm just kind of squinting and looking and seeing if I'm getting the general kind of feeling that I want. I think this still, let's push the blue a little bit just for fun. I think this still needs to come darker. And generally I'll spend quite a bit of time at this point just making sure that I've got the feeling of the light, you know, that it's starting to come, you know, I'm starting to feel that there's light here and this is all shadow. The difficulty with doing a wipeout like this when you've got a very high chroma color is that when it comes to the light part, the light side of the light side of the flower, keeping the chroma high enough is going to be a challenge because we can't allow it to mix with any black. Okay. But that's what we needed to do, you know, we've got the basic kind of. The space is set up, the environment is set up. You can see, roughly, you can see the vase. Bit of light in the vase here. Just trying to, you know, create things, you know, create something as simply as possible at the start. Just get it started, get it in, and then we can take it from there. Yeah, I suppose that's fair to say. Kate says, and obviously I'm going to be noticing everything Kate says more because she's got a little purple crown and a number 1 next to her name. Kate says, oh, just a second, let me sort my mic out. The effect of half and half a wipeout is interesting. Yeah, I guess you could say that's what this is. It is a kind of a half and half a wipeout. Although we haven't actually done any wiping out yet, but we're going to do it now. So now we've got to redraw the bit that I didn't do before, you know. So where is the flower? Got to find it again. It's all good. Do the same thing. Where's the highest point? Somewhere up here. Where's the furthest right point? About around here somewhere. Where's the furthest left point? There, probably. And the lowest point? Quite low, actually. I think, it comes a long way down into the vase, like probably like around here. Try and get a rough idea of, start wiping out this shape. So I'm going to try to think of this as not as individual petals, but try to squint down and see the overall shape and just wipe out an overall shape. But I'm going to be wiping kind of in the direction that the petals go, if you know what I mean. So what I should hopefully end up with is a very simplified version of it. That gives me kind of some reference of where things are going to go. It's slightly tricky to do it kind of blind like this without a drawing out first. If you haven't done this before, quite a lot depends on your ability to sort of eyeball a shape and get it in something like the right place. But the big advantage of doing wipeouts like this is that it stops you obsessing over the details at the beginning, and it helps you, it changes the way you think about what you're painting. So I'm wiping out, I'm looking for the disc in the middle and I'm creating it with like negative shape. And that's a very, very different process to what I was doing at the beginning when I started. Kind of drawing out where that disc was going to be. It's going to be a spooky kind of shadow sunflower to begin with. Negative shape drawing. Looking for the disc. That disc is bigger than you think. You know, I'm talking about the dark disc in the middle. I don't know what you call it. Maya, I don't think Maya's here, but she emailed me earlier on today to say she's gone off into botanical painting now and it's doing these beautiful watercolor botanical paintings. And she told me what all the parts of the flower are, and of course I've instantly forgotten. Just looking for the reference points, looking for the shapes. So I'm looking for the outlines as well. Like I'm not ignoring the outlines of where, you know, that are created by petals, but I'm trying to see the whole of the shape and not be tempted into actually wiping out the, you know, individual petals at this point. Gradually refining the shape. I'm going to have to clean up the panel quite a bit as well and take a lot of that black off. But you see how quickly you can get to a point where you can basically see the flower. You can see the composition kind of taking shape. Slava Ukraini, indeed. I probably pronounced that wrong. And I'm sorry if I just murdered your language, but the intention was good. So when I get to the shadow parts, it's less easy to decide which bits to wipe out. I think probably we still need to wipe out the shadow parts too, because, you know, I don't want all of this green and black in my shadow area, right? But I can begin to stand back now and begin to see the shape of the flower. Like I can see this needs to be bigger, this needs to come lower, this area. This is where I should have got my new easel that I've been going on for ages, and then it wouldn't rock and wobble about. Well, hopefully it wouldn't rock and wobble about as much as this one does. It's slightly irritating. And it's just the noise, you know. I'm sure the mic picks it up. We're getting there, aren't we? This needs to come a bit lower. So you can stand back and you can squint. It's lovely, this method, because you can stand back and you can squint and compare the shapes and see what you're getting wrong and what you need to change, you know. Oh, something set the dog off. She might have heard the rat. We've got a rat living in our house at the moment. I've seen it a few times. You know, this is the countryside, so it's quite a clean, sort of, you know, nice little rat. But we don't really want it in the house because it's been eating Tansy's dog biscuits and I don't think she's very happy about it. So we got some humane rat traps, you know. They're supposed to get it caught in a little box, put some really nice stuff in it, like bird feed, peanut butter, cheese. Good quality cheese as well, and of course it's completely ignoring it. Down, this shape is wrong here. Down a little bit more. So you can you spend as long as you want at this stage, you know, like just comparing the shapes and trying to make sure that you're getting them about right. I'm not looking for perfection of values at the moment. I'm just looking at the shapes. It comes bit by bit. Just got to be patient and just add a bit more, add a bit more. If you find that you overreach and you go too far out, you can paint back in again and then wipe out again if you want to. You know, it's not like the law that you have to, like here I've gone too far out, so I can get the background color. Start to refine that shape, bring that back in again. This was too wide here. And the nice thing as well about wipeouts is it's almost like it kind of, it sort of helps you create the feeling of a flower without having to do any of the petals. It's sort of, it's a very flower-like process. I think probably flower painting it works better for flower painting than anything else, or you can use it for like portraits and stuff like that as well. And I imagine landscape, although I haven't tried it yet. But it would probably work really well for that as well. So this is all, you know, pretty much just eyeballing the shapes. And it's also a nice kind of a method for that. Like it helps you just see shape. So the way I do this is just kitchen roll, and I just I keep on looking for clean bits, sort of twist it round. I'll show you some other tools you can do with this. You can do this with in a second. But for the moment, we're just trying to get everything in the right place. A not inconsiderable job, you know, but a really important one at the beginning of the painting. You could argue that I am putting some petal shapes in, but they're only because they are distinct shapes. Like here, you know, that's a distinct shape. It's actually at the wrong angle. I don't think it's going to matter very much, but it is a bit at the wrong angle. What we're not doing, though, however, is you know, it's like the outside. It's the edge of the shape I'm trying to get to draw right, you know. And it's a brilliant method to use if you're working site size. You know, if you have like a print of the of the reference that you're working from next to you, printed out the same size, it's really easy to see the shapes. I think we're probably fairly close, right? Fairly close at this point. So I want the outside edge to be something like right. But I'm not bothered about painting anything inside there, you know. Painting the individual petal shapes. No, we don't want that, not yet. Got this leaf shape here. Won't be able to do that later, so I'll pop that in now just as a dark shape. Where are we? Yeah. Trying to get in there. Alan says, rats are grain feeders. They do not eat dairy or cheese ever. I must disagree with you on the cheese, because this one has eaten cheese for sure. But you're right about the grain, that's for sure. It steals the bird food. Which is, you know, one of the reasons that we're not very happy about it being around is because we get this bird food to feed the birds. And the rat's been taking it. Actually gnawed its way into the bag and took a load of it. Not very nice, is it? Kind of just basic values, really. Values and shapes. But that's basically what, you know, that's what painting is. It's most basic if you really bring it down to just the necessary parts of painting. It is basically shapes of value and edges. Smart Rat, has the dog tested the food first? Yes, she has. Yes, she did. Oh, good point. Thomas says, if you got one, there are probably more. Yes, it did bring a little friend one day. Sarah says, would there be much of a difference if we just prepped the panel with linseed oil and omitted the solvent? Not really. No, not really. I think the only solvent I have is Senelia Green for Oil one. I don't know what that is. No, you could just use oil. It would be fine. Tasha says, TRO as the wipeout colour might be nice, especially for the middle and petals. Yes, indeed, that would work really nicely. It would also stain the panel really strongly, though. You can see the green gold has stained the panel here. But it would be nice for the shadow areas. You'd probably be most of the way there. You can also use other things, other tools for wiping out with. So let's have a bit of fun with some other things. So this is a paint shaper. Where did this one come from? It is a colour shaper, they call it. Royal Sovereign Limited in the UK. It's basically just a little chisel shaped silicone thing. So you can use this to kind of refine the outside of the shapes, and it takes more of the paint off. See that? Allows you to get like really hard edges where you want them. I can use this to lift more paint, which I need to do anyway, and also, especially in the light I'm using it, where I want to define the edge more. I'm not working on the interior of this shape, but it's the edge I want to get. And it also, one of the things I like about using a color shaper is that it really kind of, it gives you a very different quality to the edge than you get with the brush. Partly because of that hardness, and it's, you know, it slips about a little bit on the surface, slightly difficult to control. It just gives you like a really different feeling. If marks have a feeling, and I think they absolutely do. I'm not sure if I could explain to you why, but it's like, you know, a lot of our, you know, the metaphors that we use for things, like we say we're feeling up or we're feeling down, you know, a lot of them come from physical space. So I'm wiping this off every now and again as I go. There's a really interesting book called Metaphors We Live By. I confess I couldn't finish it. It was too much of a wader. But I did learn some interesting things while I was reading it. So I'm pushing as much paint off as possible and trying to refine that outside edge, just focusing on the lights now. And if I do this right, I can lift off a lot of paint. Let's try it with a bigger one, actually. I've got another one of these. This is a Princeton catalyst. Will that lift more paint? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's pretty nice. Look. Quite like that. Clean off a little bit more paint. Starting to bring out the division between the lights and the shadows now a little bit more. Taking more paint off in the lights. It's almost like making a monochrome or a very reduced chroma version of it before the paint goes on. But the advantage of doing it like this as well is that when the paint does go on, you don't have to wait until you've filled in everything else to see if the colours are right. You will immediately be able to see if the colours are right or not. I'm not trying to make a perfect rendition of the edge of the shape that I can see on the photo, but hopefully it's not like too badly out. I tend to use photos and the detail on them as kind of a starting point, as a guide of the kind of shapes I want to make, and then I want to make something that's, you know, really similar to it. That has a similar feeling. Without hopefully being like a perfect kind of copy. But not that I think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, you know, it's not against the law to do a really careful copy of a photo. It's just different aesthetic. Color shapers on a wipeout, just so useful. So I'm just looking for the lights now. Inevitably, I'm getting sucked into petals a little bit here because that's all light, you know, and the shadow around it. So I want to keep that feeling of that shadow. So I should, if I can get this right, you know, it takes a little while, but if I can get it right, I should end up with something that feels almost like a charcoal drawing of the flower. And you can do a lot of fine-tuning of the shape. Without actually doing, you know, any real drawing at all. Is anybody painting along today? Let me know if you're painting along. Might be too hot. Is it really hot in the US as well? Or in Europe, it's incredibly hot at the moment. People I pity are in, you know, the Spanish. Like, it's mad. Mad over there at the moment. Now this is shadow, so I'm less bothered about the shape, so I'll just pull a little bit of paint off here. Needs to go out a little bit more there. That'll do. I'm trying to get the character, you know, I want the character of the flower, not an exact rendition of it, I just want the character of it. The feeling of that shape. When it starts to feel about right, like it's starting to feel about right now, I think I will be happy enough to move on. This probably needs to come lower. Does it? Does this come lower, do you think? I think maybe a little bit lower here. Oop. Chucking things around the studio. So if you've never tried this method of laying out a painting, it's really, really useful. Mary says it's boiling in Nashville, but painting alone. Oh, lots of people painting. That's very cool. Hello, Krista. Yes, indeed. It has a heart in the middle of it, the sunflower. So it's 90 where you are. I think we've got, what did I say it was at the beginning? 90.2 or something. Properly warm. I'm not complaining though. Because, you know, it's only a matter of time before we'll be complaining about the cold again. Let's get a harder edge on this central disc where we're in the light. So I'm already trying to build in a feeling of like more light around here and more shadow around there. I'm going to get a Q-tip. A little bit of solvent, so I'm going to use terps. So I want to take off a little bit more of that paint. So I'm back to almost the panel, and then I'm going to lay on some light colors and some shadow colors and see how close we are then to the final effect that we want. A little bit of solvent, wipe it off a little bit. And you can really, you know, clean off the surface a little bit better with this. Nice. And if you make your strokes with it go in the direction of the petals, you get a feeling of the petals before you've even painted any of them in. It's almost a shame, like sometimes you get to a point with a wipeout where it becomes so nice that you don't want to change it. You know, I actually do have a couple of paintings in the studio, a few actually, that I've done as wipeouts and then I've stalled because I spent so long on the wipeout and getting it to a point where I thought, you know, I really liked it and it was nice, that I couldn't bring myself to go back in case I spoiled the painting. That's a terrible thing to admit, isn't it? What a weakling. But look how that's bringing, you know, more of the paint off. We're almost back to the panel now here. I'm just going to do this in the light areas. And the reason I'm doing this is, as I said before, I want to make sure that when I put that yellow down, it doesn't mix with a load of black and lose its potency. It doesn't lose its chroma, you know. But already, it's getting that feeling that you get from a wipeout where it's like a drawing, almost like a charcoal drawing. And you can start to feel the light and the shadow. Going to be a bit of a slow one today, probably. Because it's worth spending the time at this stage. And increasingly, it's easier to see, you know, like I'm squinting down most of the time, looking at the overall shape. It's becoming easier to see now that I'm bringing this value up, like where my shape is right and where it's a little bit out. I might need to change it a little bit. Oil paint is the most wonderful stuff. You can apply it so many different ways and get different effects. I never understand, like, well, I think I do understand it partly, but you find like a lot of artists, especially, and artists who teach as well, which surprises me more, that they will tell you that there is one way to paint, or one aesthetic approach which is superior to all of the others, and it, you know, of course, it just happens to be the one that they use, like, obviously. And I've never understood that, because there's so many different ways you can apply paint, and so much of it, you know, it allows for is such a kind of personal expression. Why would you want to prescribe any methods or even aesthetic approaches just because they're different from yours? Because that's partly, for me, what is so wonderful about oil paint, is because there are so many different ways that you can lay it down. There's so many, it has so many expressive possibilities. So, like, when I'm teaching, what I try to teach mostly is the fundamentals: light, shadow, edges, values, and chroma, which is more important, I think, than hue. I think we're close enough now. Now, a little flower is starting to appear without any colour on it. Mary, first time for a paint along, very cool. I do hope you enjoy it. It can be quite hard, you know. I mean, because you're listening to what I'm saying, and you're trying to, you know, paint at the same time and mix the colours and do everything. It's a lot, you know. It's a lot to be thinking about at once. That's that little highlight. There's another vague one down there as well. Make that a little bit stronger. Too much, probably. This is synthetic flat brush. Soften those in a little bit. So I'm probably not going to need to do too much to this, to the vase, except maybe make it a little bit more round, because it's a kind of an odd shape at the moment, isn't it? Cast shadows, darker shadow. Let's put that in now. This bit here would be a little bit darker in the shadow. Then I can restate. Oh, too light. Let me catch up with the comments a second before I start to throw some yellow onto this. Still fiddling, I admit it. Still fiddling a little bit. Is anyone here who's never seen this method of painting before, of laying out a painting, of the drawing out stage? I'd be really interested to hear what you think of what you're seeing. You know, I mean, it's very, very different than, you could say, a traditional classical approach, where you kind of make a drawing of all the details, and then you make a detailed drawing, and then paint the color over that. You know, like an embellished layer first, and then a opaque layer, and blah blah blah, and all the rest of it. I'm not saying that's bad, or, you know, it's just a different way of building up a painting. Krista says, my garage reached 102 degrees. Oh, you're in New Mexico, though. I imagine it does get very hot there. Oh, my word, 102. That's too much. Mary says, Mary, this is your first paint along, I know. And she says, it's been quite a lot, but I'm laughing and having a good time. That's a brilliant way to look at it, you know. This is just paint at the end of the day. It's just paint. You know, no lives are being lost here. The worst thing that happens is that you end up wasting a little bit of paint, you know, and there are much worse things that can happen in the world than that. And also, it's kind of necessary to be prepared to lose a little bit of paint in order to learn, you know? If you're too careful with your paint, you will hold back too much and you won't try things and you won't learn as much. Just trying to refine that little cast shadow. Now everything is going in. It's easier to see like the shadows and lights and everything. Beverly says, I've never seen this. Cool. Jacqueline, have you never seen it? I've done quite a few workshops where this has been used. So in the one that's coming up, there will be at least one wipeout. The flower workshop that's coming up soon. For everyone who very generously offered to help me with the development of the paint handling exercises for that workshop, thank you very much. The only reason I haven't got back to you yet is because, frankly, I was inundated. I thought I might have 5 or 6 people might get in touch and say, yeah, I'll give that a bash. And there's been quite a few people who want to get involved in it. So it is coming. I'm working on it, hopefully next week. Michael says, it's an amazing process to see the form and proportions sort of drift into view. Yeah, very true. The depth around the main object is incredible too. That's the nice thing about it. Like it just creates the space. But a lot of that is just the edge handling here. It's just, you know, a little bit of extra chroma in the shadow and edge handling and you know, the thing just appears. Yellow. So now I'm going to start putting some color on this. I'm going to use a couple of brushes here. I want this paint to go down fairly thick, so I'm using slightly stiffer brushes. These are, again, Rosemary's Ivory Flats. This is a dagger, though, which obviously you can see is already pretty much a petal shape, right? So that's going to be useful, isn't it? So this is just pure cadmium yellow. This is the highest chroma, warm yellow that I could possibly get anywhere. I know the value is about 8. I know the color is about right. So let's just put down a little bit. Where's a nice bright bit where we would want a bright bit? I've got to be careful. I've got to go right up to the edge of the black. Just lay it down, hopefully without getting any black on it. So what I'm doing is I'm putting it down, I'm pressing harder at the edge, and then I'm gradually lifting it as I get towards the end. So I just kind of pick it up as it gets to the end. So the values are looking fine, it's covering well. As long as I'm careful not to let any black get into my paint, that's the big danger, obviously. Then I will have to clean the brush and start again. At the moment, we're getting away with it. This paint is going on thickly. I'm really not messing about with it. You've got to be prepared. I know cadmium is expensive, but you've got to be prepared sometimes to really just be chucking it down. So I'm squinting down. I'm going to paint all of the light shape the same value, and then I'm going to work some shadow areas into it. One of the big things you've got to watch out for with flowers is, and it would be very easy to happen with a sunflower like this, is that you end up making like uniform petal shapes all the way around. It's like our habit that we learned when we were kids about painting flowers or the sun or, you know, anything like that, where you have a kind of a schematic built in your head. That's why I'm approaching it like this, as doing the big shapes. It helps to kind of mitigate that tendency we have. You know, a tendency you would have to basically paint this like a star, like a star, which would destroy it. And it just wouldn't work. So I'm loading this brush. Look at this. I'm loading it. And then I'm just kind of laying it down the paint. It's like you're almost like putting it on with a trowel. You're not doing like at this stage anyway, not doing a careful kind of lots of little strokes and then that's not how we're doing it at all. I just realised I need to shift one of my lights. Should be able to see it a little bit better now. Ooh, too close. That's better. Bring it down and then gradually release the pressure. Oh, I'm going to have to go the other way for that one. So I'm trying to paint these still as like, not individual petals, but colour blocks. This is all light. In the moment, obviously I know there's a lot of variation within this, but I'm basically reducing this flower to two values, light and shadow. Just really helps you mentally keep hold of the fact that you're basically painting light and shadow all the time. You don't want to think about like individual petals. You think about the big shapes and think about them in terms of light and shadow. Lay it down and pull it back. You can go this way around, load up the brush, put the paint down and then pull it back and you get a lovely hard edge. Where else have we got some light here? It's getting a little bit darker there, but I'll say that's light, you know. We'll bring that in as part of the light. Put the brush down, drag it back. Just looking for light parts. I will be refining some of the values in places in a little while, but I'm deliberately simplifying light and shadow. Let's mix up a nice shadow colour. I'm going to show you, hopefully you'll be able to see this like clearly enough on the phone. I've only got Chroma Magic up on the phone today. So if I'm looking at like this area here, it's too small in it. Let me switch to the palette and hopefully you'll be able to see this better. This area here, I want to know, I want to get a general color for like this shadow area, right? So I can set the sample size. This is brilliant. Chroma Magic. Set the sample size nice and big so I get a general color. It wants to be something like, something like this. Something like that. Kind of darker than you'd think, right? Let's try it and see. It's a value 3 to a 4, something like that. And I'm going to mix it with transparent red oxide and yellow up to the value that I want, which is going to be 2 orange, because transparent red oxide is very, very strong red orange. And that's where the green gold comes in. I better put out some cleaner green gold because I think that's got raw umber in it. And I want the most chroma possible. Green gold and transparent red oxide. I discovered this pairing like a long time ago and it's just so outrageously useful in all kinds of different situations. Like I've used it to make the shadows here, mixed with a bit of raw umber as well. It's very good for painting the shadow side of lemons. And we're going to use it here for this. So you can kind of push your color more towards a red-orange with more transparent red oxide, or you can push it more towards a yellow-orange by using the green gold. And you can balance the hue this way without losing any chroma So these are high chroma colors, but they're still like low value, you know, quite a low value. So from that point of view, they're good. Oh, Donna, that's cool. Yeah, I remember you posting that those lights were on sale. Yeah. Me313 says, I have trouble painting over a wipeout that comes out good. I know exactly what you mean. I should pull some out. I've got quite a few in here that, that I'm like, no, I can't bring myself to paint over that. And to be fair, you know, I have destroyed a couple of paintings that I thought would come out all right. You know, I made a really nice wipeout and then I painted a second layer on them and lost them, basically. I lost them. So I know what you mean. It absolutely can happen. Liliana says, I like your teaching style, even though I'm not a fan of sunflowers. How can you not like sunflowers? They're just so happy. Happy little flowers. Look, this is just a general color that we're putting down here. Getting enough chroma in there. Bring it up to the disc. Less bothered about the form here because that's like generally just a shadow color. Then I can mix between my shadow and my light, the colors in between. And you can pull it a little bit more red, a little bit more red orange with transparent red oxide, or you can pull it more towards yellow with the green gold. So I want a bit more stronger orange in here, I think. It's like the maximum chroma that I can get at this value. Simplified version. Oh, I've just cut myself with my palette knife. Oh, that's a bit bad. I do this so often. I have to wrap my finger up, try not to get any paint on it. Painting shadow shapes now. So it should look pretty stark to begin with, you know, kind of. But if you squint down, have a feeling of light and shadow. That's how you know if you're getting it like something like right. And then you can mix between your light and your shadow colors to get all the colors in between that you need to create the impression of the flower. So there's a little bit more light there. I'll just bring in a little bit more of the cad yellow. Basically just having mixed two colors. Two colors is all I need, like a color for the light and a color for the shadow, and I can get the rest. The one thing you need to watch out for is always, or not the one thing, a thing that you need to watch out for is if it just happened to me then, if the amount of color you have on your palette, if the color gets too thin on the palette, take the time to mix up some more. Don't try and eke it out, because you can't get most of the expressive kind of possibilities of oil paint if you don't have enough paint on the brush. As it goes up towards the light, we go up the values, it tends to get a little bit more towards the green. So I'm bringing more green gold in the lighter values as I get closer to the yellow, and then send it a little bit more orange as it goes into the shadow. I'm looking for shadow shapes. Much more than trying to paint individual petals, I'm just looking for shadow shapes that I can put in at the moment. There's a shadow shape here. I'll try and do it with like as few strokes as possible. Shadow here. Deliberately painting it, very simply, just because I'm trying to create a strong feeling of the form with the minimum amount of paint. Bit of shadow shape there. Doesn't take a lot. A little shadow here. I'm going to try bringing in a little bit of Racodone rose into some of these areas to bring it a little bit more. Still very light, just to make the yellow go even a little bit more orange than this. I feel like it's not that big a deal because it's just the hue, and the hue's not that important, but just to bring a little bit more orange into the yellow in the light. You don't have to paint that much to make something start to feel like it's appearing. The form is it's appearing as a physical thing on the panel. It's mostly about simplifying the form first and getting the general feeling of the light and the shadow, and then you can work into the details as much as you like. Like a nice shadow, deep shadow area around here, which is basically a cast shadow, because this isn't a flat disc. It's a like a slightly ball shaped, so it casts a shadow all the way around here onto these petals. I'm going to get another brush and I'm going to bring into the disc, do a little bit of softening on some of this, pull it out, especially where we have shadow, and then we get a little like a softer transition between the shadow and the light. Need a little bit more transparent red oxide because I'm going to sculpt this form now. Looks like a cyclops. Blimey. Harsh. Not finished yet. Blimey. So we want, just as we've got like light and shadow in here, I'm starting to work in the light and shadow in this flower and around the petal area. We also want to have light and shadow in this big shape here, which means that this part is shadow and this part is light. It's all slightly kind of reddish, which is why I've got a little bit more transparent red oxide out. Now, anything that I put on there now is going to mix with the black. Okay. So I'm going to mix a slightly lighter color than I think I need. If the phone. For the light side here, I'm going to go quinacridone rose, transparent red oxide. I'm put in a little bit of yellow as well, just to bring the value up a little bit. Because it will mix with the black. Then maybe I'll wipe it back a little bit first before I put it, just so there's less black here to mix with it. So if you think of this as like a lump and the light is coming down from here, it stands to reason that more light is going to hit here and less light is going to hit here. So around this side of it, the right hand side, it's a bit lighter. I'm not going to sit there and try and paint each one of those little, what's the word? Are they little stamens? I don't know what they are. I just want the general light and shadow colour. Got a fresh brush. Let's see if this is going to be something like what we need. Getting a little bit caught in the light. I mean the actual light that I've got on the panel. If I squint down that area, I'm going to suggest it. Rather than paint all of that detail, just there's a lighter bit there. We've got all those little little sticky out bits. I don't know what else to call them. So I want to get the general colour right there first, and then I might add like a little bit of detail here and there to show them a little bit clearer. So if you can squint down and get the general colour right first, you don't have to worry so much about getting all of the detail in. I'm going to bring transparent red oxide around into the black around this side, so it's got some chroma in there, but it's going to be noticeably darker than the other side. In the middle, I think I'm going to leave that black. It's so dark. And I'm just going to stroke this back into that. I have to wipe the brush off each time. And hopefully, if I lift the brush as I get close to the disc in the middle, I'll be able to create an impression of that kind of slightly hairy edge. Because it's not a completely uniform edge, this outside edge of the disc there. But I have to wipe the brush like pretty much each time I make one of those strokes, because it picks up some of the colour from the inside. I'm just dragging the yellow into the central disc to try and get that kind of edge quality there. Nice. Oh, you see, I did it there. I did 2 strokes and didn't wipe my brush and immediately got some black into my petals. I'm just doing this in the light though, because I think it's vague enough around here that we can't really see it anyway. It doesn't make too much difference. Yeah. Happy little sunflower painting. Basically, for a small alla prima painting like this, heading towards the finish. So I'm looking for what areas do I feel like I need to do a little bit more on. Bring this feeling of shadow out into the petals a bit here. That actually is light almost all the way to the central disc. So for that, like I'll load the brush up. I'll try and do it again. Load the brush up, start the stroke. So I can start it right over here. This is the dagger. Get a really nice fine hard edge against the background there, and then bring it in. Gradually release the pressure as it gets closer to the middle, and it kind of disappears. It softens into the shadow. This is the kind of thing that I'm putting together as, I think this can be learned. This way of making strokes that describe the light and the shadow can be learned, and I'm currently putting together some exercises. I'll give you another example. So here there's a little bit of light which starts from the side of the disc and then goes into the shadow. So if I start it here and then gradually release the pressure as I go into the shadow, I'll end up with a soft edge, like light going into shadow. Creates the impression of a transition in the shadow and the light there. Probably, I think I'm not going to bother with the leaves. I feel like it doesn't really need it. I'm having too much fun with just creating the shadow and the light. I feel like we might want a bit more colour around here, maybe. So I've got transparent red oxide and quinacridone rose to make it like a stronger red. You can actually pull this out into the petals, just if you're really, really careful and you put it just a little bit. And then all around here we're going to have some little bit of shadow coming out. Still not really painting any petals. I'm just kind of painting looking for little areas of light and shadow that are going to make the form live a little bit more. So I think it's going to work really well if I allow a lot of this painting, this to stay as just a block of a light area, and just bring suggestions of shadow in where I want. show a little bit more kind of definition. But painting the petals into a light area, I feel, is a more it's a more efficient way to do it, and it's also it ends up being a little bit more realistic as well, I think, because that's how we tend to see. But your mind will tell you, oh, that's really complicated. I've got to paint each one of those little paintings, each one of those little petals, if I'm going to make my painting work. But you don't necessarily. What you do need to do is make sure that the big areas of the light and shadow are right. I'm going to put in some, I can't resist it, I'm going to put in some of these tiny little yellow dots. A little round brush. They're like little stars in the night sky. So I've already made the general colour there. I've already made it slightly lighter, so I shouldn't really have to add very much of this. These little stars. Just a few little pinpricks. Oh, I've got to make sure I don't make them too big though. Got to be patient. I made a couple that are probably a little bit too big. Actually, this is nice. The brush is splayed a little bit, and I'm just putting on just touches with the brush, and it's making a few at a time. That's working nicely. Take off that bloody great big fingerprint I just put on there. Very fun flower to paint. I can certainly see me doing some more of these. Kind of challenging in some ways as well, though. You know, I feel almost like this might a painting could benefit from another session, but it's got like all the information that it needs in order to create the impression of the form at this point. I'm going to go around the edge a little bit and neaten up some of that, because I want this nice. You know, the quality of the edges of a shape makes a huge difference to how you perceive it. And I want a hard edge here where the petals are against the light. And I also want to refine the shapes a little bit. So I'm kind of, it's negative shape drawing again, if you like. Using the background to carve out the edges of this big light shape. And you'll see the petals, you know, without actually needing to paint them really carefully. This is really a point of the painting where it would be really easy to make a bunch of petal shapes all around the outside that look exactly the same. You've really got to fight that tendency, because it will make it look like, instead of looking like a living flower, it will look like an idea of a flower. And actually the last thing you want. Like as a child would paint a sunflower, you know. Nice. And it feels like there's, you know, because this was done as a big light shape, it feels like there's a lot of light on there now. You can almost feel the light. There's something, it's like Van Gogh, yellow was Van Gogh's favourite colour, wasn't it? And, you know, obviously he painted a lot of sunflowers. And there is something just positive about that colour. And it's quite nice just to spend a little bit of time with a very intense yellow. It's worth painting sunflowers just to spend like a few hours with a really beautiful, strong yellow. Just bringing in, I'm suggesting details now. It's still not painting individual petals, not as whole petals. But I'm breaking up the shapes at the edges to try and, you know, create the impression that I've painted more than I really have. Now I'm in details, you know, I'm holding the brush like more like a, it's kind of closer to the surface. I'm holding it more, almost like more of a writing kind of a hold. See, these petals here are getting a little bit uniform there. Starting to look a little bit too similar. Cut this one down so it's not the same size as the others. And build a bit of variety into it. Nature loves variety. It doesn't like things to be all look exactly the same. And nature likes diversity. Sorry, this is kind of requires a bit of concentration, so I'm not keeping up with the comments too well at the moment. I will in a moment, because we're nearly done. Just bringing out the quality of the shape of the petals, just in a couple of areas. So it feels more sunflowery. But it's not, it's still, you know, I must stress, it's not about painting every individual petal and getting the shape of each one perfectly right. It's about getting the feeling of those petals, the character of them. Big shadow area here that I haven't got in. And at this point, like it's much easier to do something like that and to make a change and for the values and the colours and everything to be right, because you've got everything established. You've got your big shapes and you've got your light and shadow colours already established. So everything that you put down, every value that you put down is working against a big value statement that you know is right. So you're not kind of left scratching your head and wondering why a particular part of the painting isn't working. You know, if you put down a value that is obviously too dark or too light, you can change it. I don't think this painting is going to need very much more. beautiful little sunflower. There's a happy little painting for a Friday. Well, what is for me a Friday evening, Friday afternoon? So shape-wise, I'm not too badly out. This has got a little bit too wide here. I kept having that problem as I was doing the wipeout, and it still is a little bit too wide, but not too bad overall. And I do seem to have reasonably successfully avoided that strong temptation to make all of the petals the same size and shape and end up with that kind of like a, you know, an idea of a sunflower rather than this specific sunflower, you know. I'm definitely going to be painting some more sunflowers because I've really enjoyed painting this. I did have a couple of reference photos of this flower with a light blue background, which I thought worked really nicely. Maybe we go back to. Liliana likes the hairy edge. Yeah, that is what I was saying about, yeah, it's this hairy edge around here. Yeah, it's just a little kind of an aberration of the flower, you know, which is a characteristic of the flower, let's say. Yeah, have a go at those, Kate. A jug filled with cornflowers and sunflowers sounds wonderful. That will be a happy yellow, happy painting. But yeah, just try to follow the same kind of approach. Stay with the big shapes. Don't be tempted to get into the petals too soon. Leave them right until the end. Donna says, would a rake brush work for the hairy edge? I don't even know what a rake brush is. I'm going to look it up. Rake brush. Oh yeah, I would call that a comber. Yeah, absolutely would work. I've got some combers. Where are they? Here's a comber. So this is a Rosemary's Eclipse comber. Just means it's got some of the hairs removed. As far as I can tell, absolutely would work. It's a nice softening brush too. Oh, actually, that's a very nice effect because it's getting just the right level of softening of the edge. Basically the same thing as far as I can tell to a comber. Pretty much the same thing. Krista says, Google says the center of a sunflower head is composed of many tiny flowers called disc florets. This is what Maya was telling me in her email. That's true, yeah. They start out yellow but mature and turn black or brown as the sunflower produces seeds. I can see probably quite a lot of sunflowers in my future. I think it's going to be a thing, like pansies and roses have become for me, and big daisies as well. Alfie's mum, you're going to have to remind me of your name again. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyway, she says, I don't like sunflowers, but I love your painting. Thank you. Tasha says, oh, she's asking Donna, did you buy the soft boxes to go over the lights? Yes, I would say definitely get the soft boxes. They make a big difference, I think. Hello, Tiamat. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Kate says, sunflowers can look a bit chunky. They can, can't they? But this is graceful, if that's not too odd a word. That's a very lovely word to use about it, Kate, and I appreciate that very much. I'm trying to get the character of this specific sunflower, not paint an idea of a sunflower, you know. Thank you, Louise. Donna says, for me, sunflowers represent joy. What a lovely way to put it, yeah. And Fran, yes, sunflowers are indeed the national flower of Ukraine, so it seems particularly apposite to be painting them. And that also would seem like it would be quite a good a good reason to paint some more of them, right? Given what's happening at the moment. Yeah. In fact, I'm going to dedicate this painting and today's live stream to all the Ukrainian people fighting occupation and oppression. Agree, Thomas. The world definitely needs more happy. Thank you, Andy. That's a lovely thing to say. Donna says, once again, I like the painting far better than the photo. That, honestly, you couldn't give me a better compliment than that, because, you know, what I'm trying to do every time I paint from a photo, obviously, like especially for these Friday lives, I'm trying to get pretty close to the photo, but not like, you know, exact. I want it to feel like that it's an interpretation, you know. But I am obviously, I'm part of what I'm doing here is teaching about color, you know. So I definitely want it to sorry, this happens to me a lot. My wife Michelle, it drives her absolutely mad. I start saying something and then I think of something else and I don't finish my sentences. And I realized that I do it on live streams as well. But it's because, you know, I was saying something and then I suddenly realized that I need to soften this cast shadow. I'm sorry. And now I've completely forgotten what I was saying. Oh, it's the way it is. The life of a painter, what can you say? We've got a load more sunflowers coming. So I will definitely be painting some more. Laura says, would it work just as well to wait for the black to dry first? No, because the reason for that is oil paint is transparent. Well, translucent, I suppose, more correctly. So if you paint like a very light, high chroma color like this yellow over black, over time, it won't cover properly anyway, and then over time, it will gradually become more transparent, and the black will show through more. So no, I wouldn't do it that way. I wouldn't paint over the black, no. Not a good plan. Why? I mean, you know, I covered all of that with black first, but then I was careful to wipe off as much black as I could before I put the yellow down. Thankfully got away with it this time. Thank you, Jacqueline. Oh, hello, Ramilla. I didn't realize that was you. I didn't know JK Data was you. That's good. Thank you, Linda. That's a very nice thing to say. Lovely, relaxing and educational. Well, I couldn't hope for better than that, could I really? Oh, Joanne says, what did you just do, Paul? That was perfect for the transparency of the vase. I picked up, this is the brush that I used for this originally, although it's kind of, you know, a bit dirty now. I just brought, what did I do? That's one of those things I suppose you do without really thinking about it. It just needed a slightly lighter value there, and that seemed to be about the right color to do it. I just brought the value up. It's an indeterminate color that I happen to have mixed, and I added a little bit of green gold to it because it's bringing down the background that's up there, you know, because it's this, it needs to match this color here. Because what you've got here, basically, what happens a lot in my setups when I have these vases like this, is that the vase ends up the same color as the background where it's in the light. So I just brought that color down into the vase, and that seemed to bring it in. Diana says, what about the green petal on the right? Do you think I should put it in? Do we need a green petal? What do you think? It's not very obvious, is it? In the... Go on then. It's only going to take me a couple of minutes. I'll just suggest it, all right? I'll suggest that there's a petal there. What I need in order to do that is phthalo green, because green gold by itself is going to be too yellow-green. And actually what's good about that is that it will, just softening that shadow area a bit, it will differentiate it from all the rest of the greens. So we'll start off with green gold. Oh, I've run out of that. I need some more green gold on the palette too. I used to have these beautifully organized palettes, and I still teach that way, but when I'm just painting on a Friday, I end up with this. You can still see the individual colors, but I just kind of throw them together. What do we want? It's got to be really low value, like a 2 or a 3, even like the light areas. 2 or a 3. Green gold, a little bit of phthalo green. That was too much. I'm going to bring in some black to drop the chrome a little bit, and white to bring the value up. We want to be about a value 3. That's too light. It's a good color. It looks subtly different from everything else on the palette, but it's too light. More green gold, a little bit more phthalo, a little bit black. Especially for blue greens, I use black a lot to drop the chroma. That should be all right. What value is that? We're about a 3, I want really. Yeah, it's about a 3, 3.5. Fresh brush. Good leaf brush. What's this? I'm getting all the rosemaries out today. This is an evergreen long flat. I'm going to get some oil on it and wipe it off. Got a lot of paint on my hands today. And Diana, it's totally your fault because now I've got a load of phthalo green on my hand. That's brilliant. Kato says, I was doubting when all the yellow went on at first, but I'm a believer now. Good. Green. Where's it going to go? So I'll put the light area in first. Kind of is very subtle though. Comes out the edge of the flower there. And then there's a much darker green around it. So I'm going to bring a lot of phthalo in. Trying to find the right balance of value and chroma. So it would be very easy to overstate it, and it really just wants to be suggested, I think, more than anything. Just trying to find the right value. It's like half a step of value and it would be out. I don't think it needs any more than that, really. Just the merest suggestion that it's there. I should really make a clearer leaf shape here. I've left it too late though, because now if I put a leaf here, this silhouetted leaf, I have to cut into the petals, which is like, this is the wrong time to be doing this. Yeah, I can't do it. I'm going to spoil a petal. Little shiny sun. I've loved painting this. I hope you've enjoyed the session today. And the lesson for today, I hope, will make sense to you, is ignore those petals. Get those big shapes in. And a wipeout is a brilliant way to make sure that you focus on the big shapes first. And then just simplify everything into light and shadow. Live with it. You have to be prepared to live with it for a little bit. Like that. And just keep on working and adding the subtleties as you go. In links in the description if you're interested in finding out more about the Chroma Magic, the little app that I had on when I was looking at the colours earlier on, made by wonderful Michelle Clamp, who is here. Brilliant painter, and has made this incredibly useful tool available to the painting public for like $20. It's like it's outrageously cheap. It's such good value. Can literally help you solve like a lot of your color judging problems, help you train your eye. It doesn't make a painting for you, but it will help you avoid an awful lot of color mistakes. You can find out if you want to get email notifications of when I do these live sessions and the links and everything, little reminders of when they're on. You can join my email list, which there's a link for down there. And if you want to learn with me, there's a link to my online art school as well. Nadia says, I missed a day, sorry, but I wonder if you teach a new flower workshop this year. Yes, one is coming. It's going to start in about 3 weeks, probably. I'm putting it together now. I'm photographing a bunch of flowers. It's going to be stuff like this, and like the roses that we did last week. Was it last week, I think? And like the poppies. It's basically a bunch of paintings like this, except that you get mixing videos and drawing out videos. And I'm also putting together some practice exercises and tuition videos on how to make brush marks that become light and shadow and that become petals. Obviously, there's going to be a strong emphasis on simplification into light and shadow shapes. Basically, it's going to be a fun workshop. Probably, it'll be 6 weeks. They always are. 6-week workshop. It will be, I think what we'll do this time, I'm going to send out an email and ask everybody, actually, so you can tell me what you think. But most people, I think, are interested in doing more subjects, smaller paintings, and more single session ones. So I think it's going to be quite a bit of that. And I also want to use Chroma Magic to do a couple of simple block-ins of master paintings of flowers that we will be painting as well, so you can see how other people have done it too. Going to be lots of fun. I'm going to go off and have my pizza with my boys and my wife now. You all have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.